Zac Robinson needs to pack his bags and he needs to go right now. And Atlanta Falcon fans, I feel y'all, man. We deserve better than this bullcrap. We deserve better than this bullcrap. And we're going to talk about that today. But before we get started, I want to tell you guys to hit that subscribe button, like, comment, and share. And tell a friend, and tell a friend, and tell a friend to support my channel. The Atlanta Falcons make me sick. I can't tell you guys how much I despise this sorry loser crappy organization. I can't stand these losers. I can't stand them. I'm so angry at the Atlanta Falcons right now. That performance against the Miami Dolphins was so despicable, so ugly, so unserious. It made me want to throw up watching that performance that the Falcons displayed against the Miami Dolphins. And like I said to start this episode, Zac Robinson needs to go. Zac Robinson needs to go. I've seen enough. I've seen enough from Zac Robinson. And Raheem Morris, while I'll admit I'm not quite as ready to fire him right now as far as like moving him like mid-season as I am with Zach. I also got to admit this with Raheem Morris as well. My patience is wearing thin with him. Like, it's just this. And it's become a lot more difficult for me to defend Raheem Morris at this point in time. It's just this. But Zac Robinson, I want to start with Zac Robinson. He needs to go. It's time for Zac Robinson to go. And the reason I say that is it's just clear as day. Zac Robinson he's not a good offensive coordinator. He just isn't. And look, I don't even care that Michael Penix didn't play and that Kirk Cousins was the backup quarterback. I don't even care. I don't care that Drake London didn't play. He was hurt. I don't care. You know why? Because you're playing the 1-6 Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins went into that game 1-6. The Miami Dolphins went into that game with one of the worst records in football. The Miami Dolphins went into that game having the worst run defense in the NFL. And it didn't matter at all. They just shut you guys down all game. The Atlanta Falcons offense had nothing for the Miami Dolphins defense. The Miami Dolphins defense was looking like the 2000 Baltimore Ravens on Sunday. I mean, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? The Miami Dolphins, at one point in the game, the Miami Dolphins on the road in your building, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, the Miami Dolphins in your building was up 34-3. 34-3 in your building. I mean, that performance that the Atlanta Falcons displayed was beyond pathetic. It was beyond pathetic. And Zac Robinson needs to go because it's clear as day that his offense is so predictable. Teams know what's coming. This pistol offense that he has the Falcons running, this is so predictable. There's a reason why the Miami Dolphins, despite being ranked one of the worst defenses in the league, was able to shut the Atlanta Falcons down. You know why? Because they knew what plays were happening. They knew what plays were coming. And I bet you after that game, some of their players probably told the media, just like last week with the San Francisco 49ers, the Miami Dolphins, some of those Miami Dolphins defenders probably told the media, we knew what the Falcons were running. We knew that if the tight end was in motion, it was a run. Or we knew that the wide receivers were in motion, it was a pass. Like, just something like that. I guarantee you that the Miami Dolphins was looking at the Atlanta Falcons on film, and they're like, yeah, we can stop their offense. They're so predictable. It's so easy to stop. And they probably did. And they did. They saw that on film, and they're like, yeah, we got this. And guess what? They got this because they were shutting the Atlanta Falcons offense down. It was the way the Miami Dolphins defenders were defending the Atlanta Falcons offense. It was like they knew what plays were coming. They knew what formation the Atlanta Falcons were in. They knew that whether it was going to be a run or a pass, and they read it like a book, and it showed. And I can't take it anymore. There was a sequence in that game for the Falcons that I think it was like 3rd down, and the Falcons were at like their own 5. And it was 3rd down and 10. And instead of the Falcons throwing the ball, they ran the ball. And it was stopped. And the crowd was booing. And quite frankly, I don't think the boos for the Falcon fans should have been even louder, because it was so disgusting. It was like Zac Robinson just had no answers. And then later in the game, when the game was out of reach, the Falcons on 4th and 10 or 4th and 7, Zac Robinson calls a short pass for Kyle Pitts that was beyond the sticks, and he ended up getting stopped. I mean, it's just beyond embarrassing. Kirk Cousins. I mean, look, I was never one of those guys that was saying that, oh, Kirk Cousins have a chance to raise his trade value if he plays well today. Like, I was never one of them people. But he looked just deer in the headlights. Just awful. Terrible. Bad communication on with the wide receivers. Just nothing. And like I said, man, this was beyond embarrassing. And like I said, I've seen enough of Zac Robinson. If Zac Robinson is not fired by the time this recording ends and this episode gets posted on YouTube, if Zac Robinson ain't fired by then, I'm gonna lose it. I'm gonna lose my mind, because he's terrible. He's not good. He ain't it. It's just nothing else for me to say. Like, Zac Robinson as an offensive coordinator, he's terrible. And this is where Raheem Morris deserves some criticism, a lot of criticism, because Raheem Morris, but after he was hired, I remember a quote from him when he was talking about how we have 26 coaches on our staff, and we got all these coaches, and I want to have a big staff because we're going to win a lot of games, and I want to be prepared that when we win games, and when we win games, we want to lose some guys, and I want to be prepared to have replacements for the guys that we lose. This is what Raheem Morris was saying after he was hired. Like, he was cocky and arrogant about how good his coaches that he hired were. And I'm talking about Jimmy Lake last year and Zac Robinson this year, among the coaches that he had. He was just so confident and cocky that he had this amazing coaching staff. Well, guess what? We're about a year and a half later, and Jimmy Lake was fired last year. And in all likelihood, Zac Robinson's probably going to get fired soon. And so your two coordinators are likely both out, your offensive and defensive coordinator. I mean, so much for all that cockiness, huh, Raheem Morris? Yeah. I guess that cockiness got you nowhere. And so, and for me, I look at Raheem Morris, the biggest indictment for him as a head coach for the Falcons is he has whiffed on his coordinator hires. Jimmy Lake was awful. He ended up letting him go. And in all likelihood, Zac Robinson's probably going to get let go very soon. He won't be here long term. And so you're looking at your coordinator hires. There's just they whiffed. He whiffed on both of them. And I don't care what coach you are in the NFL. To me, something that I've learned over the years for NFL coaches is you're only as good, at least for most coaches, not all, but I think for most NFL coaches, you're only as good as the coordinators that you hire. Dan Quinn, I keep coming back to him. I admit, I wasn't the biggest Dan Quinn fan when he was hired. I wasn't the biggest Dan Quinn fan when he was here. But you know what? With Dan Quinn, he got the Atlanta Falcons to the Super Bowl. And you know why he got the Atlanta Falcons to the Super Bowl? And it's because of Kyle Shanahan, an elite offensive mind. Dan Quinn could focus on the defense, but you have an elite offensive coordinator in Kyle Shanahan who can make things work with the offense. And yeah, things were a little spotty in 2015. But in 2016, we all knew what happened. The Atlanta Falcons had one of the best offenses in NFL history. And Matt Ryan had an MVP year. And Julio Jones was a superstar. And you had great complementary weapons with Mohamed Sanu and Taylor Gabriel. And you had Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman in your backfield. And the Atlanta Falcons was just unstoppable on the offensive side of the ball. And it was because of Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan made things work as an offensive coordinator, and it made things easier for Dan Quinn. And look, as soon as Kyle Shanahan left, and all of a sudden, the coordinators that the Atlanta Falcons had, it just wasn't the same. Like you had Steve Sarkisian, and then you had Dirk Cutter, and the offense just wasn't as good, and the team sputtered. And so, for me, I think a lesson in all of this is coordinator hires are so important in the NFL. You gotta have good coordinators. Coaching matters in football more than in any sport. I think it matters more in football than it does in basketball. In baseball, you gotta have good coaching in football. Coaching matters a ton when it comes to just developing your quarterback and putting your players in position to succeed on offense and defense. Right? Some, like defensively, some cornerbacks they're good in man coverage. But if you play them in zone, it's not going to do anything. You're not going to look as good. Having a man corner play zone all the time, or vice versa. Some cornerbacks might be good in zone, but if you're asking them to play man-to-man coverage, you're not going to look as good. And so you gotta have coaching on both sides of the ball. You gotta have good coordinators. And if there's a big indictment on Raheem Morris at this moment, he has just whiffed on his coordinator hires. He's whiffed on them. And it's bad. And it might cost him his job in the long run. I look at Raheem Morris. Look, I think he's a good guy. There's no question he's a good guy. I bet you could go to a restaurant in Buckhead and you could see Raheem Morris sitting down at a table and you run up to him. I bet you Raheem Morris is the type of person you could have a 10 to 15 minute conversation with him. And you could talk about anything, life, sports, music, food, ladies, relationships, whatever. I bet Raheem Morris is the type of person you can have a real conversation with for a good 10 to 15 minutes anywhere. So he's a good person. And he's a guy that you want to root for, and he's African American and he's black, and we all know the city of Atlanta wants to get behind their black coaches. I got it. But man, as a football coach, he's left a lot to be desired at times. Actually, I think he's left a lot to be desired, period, as an NFL coach. And it's just hard to defend him. You look at what he did in Tampa Bay, which was 15 years ago, when Tampa was not good. and we all, people had the assumption that maybe this dude learned. But based off of what we've seen, it's kind of the same thing. You look at the Atlanta Falcons under Raheem Morris. Raheem Morris has coached the team, I want to say, has it been 21 times, 20, I think 26 times? I want to get my math correct. So he coached the team 17 games last season. And the Falcons have played 7. So 24 times. So he's coached the Falcons in 24 games. And the Atlanta Falcons, in those 24 games, they've lost by 26 times. 6 times. 6 times in 24 games, the Atlanta Falcons have been blown out by 20 or more times. You compare that to Arthur Smith, who everybody hated. He was coaching the Falcons for 51 games. The Falcons were only blown out like 6 times in 51 games. And so what I'm saying is Arthur Smith, say whatever you want about him, but the Atlanta Falcons were always competitive under his watch. Like, they played hard. They competed. With Arthur Smith, with Raheem Morris, it feels like every other game, it's just you don't know what you're getting. And make no mistake about it, man, I thought losing 30-0 to Carolina was bad when it comes to the Falcons losing. This game against the Dolphins is worse, I could argue. This team was down 34-3 at home against a 1-6 Dolphins team who, I'm going to be honest, with Tua, does Tua even like his teammates? Really? Does Tua even want to be there? Tua has had, eye issues. Has had eye issues, and at times there was indications that he might be blind, and it didn't matter. He threw 4 touchdowns. Looking like the Tua from a couple of years ago. And to me, I can't help but think that it's coaching, when it comes to this. Why are the Atlanta Falcons losing to bad teams? Why are you getting smacked 30-0 to the Carolina Panthers, and you're losing 34-10 to the Dolphins at home in your building? And again, I don't want to hear about Michael Penix not playing or Drake London not playing. You got Kirk Cousins, is the highest paid backup quarterback in the league. You can't look competent? Come on. Like I said, this is embarrassing. Look, man. As an Atlanta Falcon fan, I try to give the Atlanta Falcons a lot of grace. I try. I really do. But the truth of the matter is, this Atlanta Falcon franchise is beyond lost. They've lost their way. They've lost their whatever. This team just doesn't. This franchise they don't know what they're doing. The Atlanta Falcons are looking at missing the playoffs for 8 straight seasons. You're looking at 8 consecutive seasons of missing the playoffs. This team currently, 10 out of the past 12 years, they've had a non-winning season. Right now, we're looking at 11 out of 13 seasons of the Falcons not making the playoffs. 11 out of 13 seasons. Since the start of 2013, the Atlanta Falcons are looking at missing the playoffs 11 times. In 13 seasons, the Atlanta Falcons are tied for 2nd in the league with the Panthers for having the longest playoff drought in the league, with the New York Jets being way ahead at 14. It's bad. This is bad. This is bad. I've said this for a while. Like the Atlanta Falcons, when you look at where they are as a franchise, like I have to associate the Atlanta Falcons with teams like the Jets and the Raiders and the Browns and the Cardinals and the Titans. Like these are the franchises that I'm associating Atlanta Falcons with. They're just losers. They don't know what it takes to win. They don't hire the right people. They don't hire the right general managers. They don't draft well. They don't make good decisions. This is what the Atlanta Falcons do. Everything that equates to winning in the NFL, the Atlanta Falcons do the exact opposite. Am I wrong? Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me. Everything that equates to winning in the NFL, what the Atlanta Falcons try to do when it comes to winning, they do the opposite. They don't make good decisions. Everything the Atlanta Falcons do is wrong. Every decision they make ends up being wrong. Every coaching hire, every general manager hire, every draft pick, every trade, who they go after, everything the Atlanta Falcons do is the opposite of winning. The Atlanta Falcons are addicted to losing. The Atlanta Falcons eat, breathe, and sleep losing. It's what they do. They embrace losing. That's what they are telling Atlanta Falcon fans. They just love they embrace losing. They eat, breathe, and sleep it. It's what they do. They lose. They love losing. They love embarrassing Falcon fans. And for Falcon fans, like I said, man, we deserve better. We deserve better than these loser Atlanta Falcons. These no good, sorry losers. We deserve better than these losers. Because that's what the Atlanta Falcons are. They're losers. That's what they do. That's why they eat, breathe, and sleep it. Eat, breathe, and sleep losing. That should be the new logo for the Atlanta Falcons. Eat, breathe, sleep, losing. Eat, breathe, sleep, losing. Eat, breathe, sleep, losing. That's what the Atlanta Falcons do. They eat, breathe, and sleep losing. And unfortunately, I think it's going to stay that way. And and Arthur Blank, like I said, he should bear some responsibility for this because he's hiring these guys. He's hiring these bad general managers and these bad coaches. And these dudes just don't have a clue how to build a winner. They don't know how to build winning franchises. Like I said, man, we're looking at 8 straight seasons of not making the playoffs. It's not a coincidence. Like, there's got to be a common denominator in all of this. Arthur Blank's been the owner for 23 years. I mean, what else is there to say? I mean, this is, like I said, man, this isn't good. This is not good for the Atlanta Falcons. As an Atlanta Falcon fan, like this is a miserable time to be an Atlanta Falcon fan. It really is. Because they do this to us. They've done this to us for a long time. Just embarrass us. I honestly wish that they could move the Atlanta Falcons and get them away from this city and move them to Savannah or somewhere. Because I don't want them in Atlanta no more. I'm sick of them. I'm sick of rooting for this sorry bum team. I'm sick of it. I'm so angry at the Falcons right now, man. I can't take it. And Atlanta Falcon fans deserve better than this, man. I really do, man. I feel bad for Falcon fans. I do. I really do. I feel bad. I mean, this is. I feel bad for Falcon fans rooting for this team. I do, man. We deserve better, But like I said, man, this was not a good performance by the Falcons. This was embarrassing. This was an abomination. Losing to the Miami Dolphins 34-10. I don't know if it, what, it might get worse. It could get worse because the Atlanta Falcons got the New England Patriots. New England could beat this team. Who knows what the Patriots will do to this team? I mean, just when you thought that things couldn't get lower for the Falcons, things could absolutely get worse for this team. No question about it. Because the Atlanta Falcons, as we known them to be, just expect the unexpected when it comes to the Atlanta Falcons. Because it could absolutely get worse. It absolutely could. And look, man, at the very minimum for me, at the very minimum, I think Zac Robinson needs to go. I think you have to pull the plug on him. I think it's time. It's time. It's time to pull the plug on Zac Robinson. He's not the answer. And I think with each passing game, it's going to start becoming more clear that he's not it. The Atlanta Falcons have had one touchdown in over the last, I want to say the Falcons have had one touchdown over the last, I forgot the number, 12 quarters or something like that. I don't know, but it ain't good. And you look at the Atlanta Falcons in their losses, they've averaged 10 points a game in their losses. And guess what the Falcons had against the Miami Dolphins? Yeah, you guessed it. 10 points. 10 points. That's their average in their losses. 10 points. If you can shut down the Falcons running game, you can pretty much shut down the Atlanta Falcons. And Bijan Robinson didn't have a good game. Probably he didn't have a good game. And that's just kind of what the Atlanta Falcons are, man. We're a bunch of losers. This is what they do, man. They embarrass us, and they do nothing but lose and embarrass our fans, and they let us down. And unfortunately, I don't see things changing, and I think this thing is going to continue as long as these people are in charge. There's nothing else. That's all I have, and it's unfortunate. And yeah, that's all I have. And I'll catch you guys in the next episode.